Trump supporters are now coming after black people. This is a tweet by Godsad, and would you look at that? Blacks are 23 times more likely to unalive white people. This is extremely pathetic because it is very easy to selectively pick stats and paint a narrative. It would be very easy to say something like, whites are more likely to unalive school children because most school shootings are done by white men. Of course, that would be stupid. You cannot paint white people as a whole because of a few in that group committing crimes. But also cannot black people as being more violent because a select few in their group doing something bad. You see, God, it is very easy to turn this against you. Bill Maher did a great segment about this white shooting phenomenon.
An American mass shooter, really, but a suicide bomber wearing Axe body spray. The NRA should change its slogan to "Guns don't kill people, seething loners who can't get laid kill people." Yes, we have too many guns, but America has an epidemic of gun violence because it has an epidemic of guys who are picked last in gym.
They don't have gym class in schools anymore.
All right, I do it for them at home. Forget red flags. Just find the guys who cut their own bangs. I know profiling is wrong, but if a guy takes his mother to the prom, he goes on the list. Does your fondest sexual memory involve two other people you heard through a wall? I'm going to get rid of this fucking audience if it's the last thing I do. You've been selected for extra screening. Armed and lonely is not a good combination. America has a loneliness crisis. 22% of millennials say they don't have any friends. 25% say they don't even have an acquaintance. 10% didn't know that pizza comes in slices.
The point of playing that video wasn't to paint all white people with a broad brush, but just to show that it is very easy to match God's energy and selectively pick stats. And it is extremely sad that this person has been on the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe keeps giving conservative morons a microphone, and no wonder he has conservative brain rot. Guys, hit that like button if this message resonates with you, and I want to finish the video off by this. Neil deGrasse Tyson did a similar segment on Joe's podcast where he demonstrated how easy it is to be racist by playing a fictional black racist to demonstrate a point.
Thomas Jefferson or Francis Galton?
Jefferson.
Jefferson, 1785. Speaking of the Negroes, comparing them by their faculties of memory, reason, and imagination, it appears to me that in memory, they are equal to the whites. In reason, much inferior, as I think one could scarcely be found capable of tracing and comprehending the investigations of Euclid. And in imagination, they are dull, tasteless, and anomalous.
What is Euclid?
I honestly don't know how many Euclid-fluent white people Jefferson knew in the original American colonies. Euclid invented geometry. Okay, Euclidean geometry is ancient Greece. And his books still exist to this day. So he's saying the black slaves don't know Euclid, can't figure out Euclid.
Well, they haven't been educated.
Well, regardless,
how
many white farmers in 1785 USA
also
knew Euclid?
Yeah,
no,
zero.
Okay, okay. But whatever were his observations and objections to black people, he had no hesitation continually mating with at least one of them, producing 6 children. So you know what I did here? Then there's a guy who wrote a whole book comparing black people and white people, a book that was used into the 1960s. It was called The Origin of Races by Carlton Kuhn. He wrote, if Africa was the cradle of mankind, which he recognizes, it was only an indifferent kindergarten. Europe and Asia were our principal schools. So these are people putting themselves at the top. He's white, so he's got to put white people at the top. Then I thought, suppose anthropologists were black racists instead of white racists. What would they found? Let's go back to the 19th century and let all anthropologists be black racists instead of white racists. Okay?
Okay.
What would they say? So, all right. Chimpanzees are humans' closest genetic relative. We just need to find similarities between chimps and white people, and that would be surefire evidence of their less evolved state. Because that's what people were saying. The blacks were still evolving, and they show a chimp, a black person, and a white person. And so that's, you can enslave black people and laws against them. It would way to justify it, because of course you're going to put yourself at the top. So now, hypothetical black racist anthropologist. Chimps and other apes. So this is a list. This is in a book that was never written. Chimps and other apes grow hair all over their bodies. The hairiest people you've ever seen have been white people, with mats of hair across their chests and ascending their backs. Their body hair can even reach upward and out of their shirt collar. Black people do not remotely approximate this level of hairiness. There was no mention of this in any of those books. Distinct from their face, hands, and feet, part the hair of most chimpanzees the way they do to each other when checking for lice, and their skin color is white, not any shade of black or brown. Chimps tend to have big ears relative to their head size. After decades of ear watching, I can attest that the biggest ears I've ever seen on humans have been on white people. Have a look yourself next time you're in a crowded public place. Doubtless there's strong overlap, but the size of black people's ears can be as little as half the size of white people's ears. You might now ask about the famously large ears of President Barack Obama. But he is precisely half white, just as much white as black. So maybe his big ears come from the white half of his family. For most of the 20th century, Neanderthals were portrayed as stupid and brutish. Turns out, beginning in the 1990s, genetic research revealed that Europeans are between 1% and 3% Neanderthal. Africans, 0%. That can't be good for Europeans. Time to clean up that backward primitive image. Since then, published references to Neanderthals instead comment on what must have been their creative, artistic, inventive, and articulate ways, crafting sophisticated tools and technologies to shape their world.